Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hey there.
So we've gathered a bunch of tech news updates, newsletters, looking at the end of May, snapshots from both 2024 and 2025.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see that progression, how things stack up year over year.
Exactly. And, our goal today is really to dig into this stuff, find the important bits, the surprises.
The insights that kind of get lost in the noise sometimes.
Right. Just to help you get up to speed quickly on some pretty fascinating shifts happening, especially in tech and AI.
And we've got quite a mix. AI in healthcare, consumer tech stuff, new tools for work, even robots and robotaxis.
Should be interesting. Let's dive in. Okay, first up, something with pretty significant real-world impact. Doctor burnout.
Yeah, this is a huge issue. And the sources we looked at really highlight one major driver: documentation.
It sounds almost unbelievable, but the numbers cited are stark, aren't they?
They really are. For every hour a doctor actually spends with a patient, they're spending about 2 hours on notes and admin.
2 hours. That's draining.
Totally. And that's where AI is starting to step in. We're seeing these AI listen and transcription services being used, like right there during the appointment.
So the AI listens to the conversation.
It listens, understands what's being discussed medically, and then, drafts the clinical note automatically, or at least a very solid first draft.
Okay, and are there specific systems doing this?
Yeah, a couple were mentioned prominently. There's Microsoft's Dragon Copilot.
Which used to be called DAX, right?
Exactly. And another big one is Abridge.
And are these actually being used now?
Oh, yeah. Tampa General Hospital, Ardent Health, they're piloting the Microsoft one. Abridge is apparently already in use at places like Kaiser, Sutter, Yale, Emory. Big names.
Wow. So it's not just theoretical.
Not at all. And Abridge made this really bold claim in one of the sources.
Wow.
They said they've never lost a head-to-head comparison against Microsoft's tech in clinical settings.
That's quite a statement. Competition is heating up then.
Seems like it. And the benefits they're reporting, if they hold true across the board, are pretty compelling.
Like what? Less time on notes.
Yeah, significantly less. The figures mentioned were around a 40 to 50% improvement in documentation time. Think about cutting those 2 hours down.
It's huge.
And it's not just time saved. One source mentioned a 60% drop in cognitive burden. So less mental energy spent just on the paperwork.
Right, freeing them up to actually think about the patient care.
Exactly. And Abridge users specifically reported 50% less burnout.
50% less burnout.
That's
massive.
It really is. And there was that one quote, the anecdotal one, about a doctor actually getting home for dinner with their family because of the time saved.
Yeah, that really brings it home, doesn't it? The human impact.
It does. But, okay, we have to talk about the flip side.
Privacy.
You have an AI listening to, deeply personal health conversations.
Constantly. And the sources did mention past data breaches involving healthcare services, sometimes even linked to things like Microsoft 365.
Right. And you're essentially creating these huge centralized databases of incredibly sensitive patient information. That requires ironclad security.
Absolutely. And transparency, right?
Yeah.
Patients need to know this is happening and agree to it.
Definitely. So, don't be surprised if your doctor asks if they can record your visit for their AI assistant sometime soon.
So the takeaway here is AI could genuinely help with a massive problem in healthcare, potentially giving doctors back their time and sanity.
But it absolutely forces this critical discussion about privacy, security, and consent. It's a balancing act.
A really important one.
Okay, shifting gears now. Let's talk consumer tech. Stuff you might actually use every day.
And this first one, it's a potential change from Apple that caught my eye. A bit surprising.
The OS renaming thing?
Yeah. Reports citing Bloomberg suggest they're planning to change how they name iOS, iPadOS, macOS, all of them.
Instead of just counting up like iOS 18, iOS 19.
They might tie the number to the release year.
Right. The example given was iOS 19 could actually become iOS 26.
iOS 26. That sounds weirdly futuristic compared to 19.
It does feel like a jump. And the timing mentioned for the announcement was possibly WWDC on June 9th.
So why? Why make this change now? Does it mean anything for users, really?
Well, it's likely strategic, maybe simplifying the brand, aligning it more clearly with the year, kind of like how macOS uses California place names, but also has underlying year associations.
Or maybe like Windows 11, clearly tied to a specific era rather than just an incremental number.
Could be. It might make marketing easier, tying iOS 26 directly to the iPhone launched in 2026, for instance.
Makes sense. Easier to track feature sets, maybe. Still, it'll take some getting used to for everyone who just thinks next number up.
For sure. A subtle shift, but one that changes how we perceive the software's evolution.
Okay, sticking with consumer gadgets, Amazon's Blink video doorbell got an upgrade.
Yeah, the budget offering, but some pretty useful improvements,
The big one seems to be adding person detection.
which is way better than just generic motion detection, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Fewer alerts about squirrels or cars driving by.
Exactly. You only get pinged if it actually sees a person, which is what you usually care about at your front door. Makes the whole thing less annoying, more useful.
And the video quality got a boost too.
Yep, up to 1440p by 1440p. That's a square aspect ratio, up from 1080p.
Square. Why square?
It gives you a better head-to-toe view. You can see someone's face clearly, but also potentially packages left right by the door. More practical than a wide rectangle sometime.
Ah, okay. And a wider field of view as well.
Yeah, 150 degrees, so you just capture more of the porch area. For a budget doorbell, those are pretty solid upgrades. Makes it a more effective security tool.
All right, let's move on to some newer AI tools that are starting to reshape how work gets done and even creative stuff.
Yeah, the sources flag something called Perplexity Labs. This is apparently a new feature for their pro users.
And the description was interesting. Going from idea to execution, what does that actually look like?
So it seems to build on Perplexity's ability to search the web and synthesize info, but then it adds code execution. Meaning it can take your request, find the data, and then actually generate things like reports, spreadsheets filled with that data, maybe even simple dashboards or basic apps.
Whoa. So it's not just giving you text answers. It's actually creating functional outputs.
Pretty much. And the note that it can take, like 10 minutes or more for complex tasks, suggests it's doing some real computation in the background.
That definitely points towards, well, the sources talked about the evolution of knowledge work. Right?
Exactly. It suggests the skill isn't just finding information anymore, but knowing how to use these powerful AI tools to automate the analysis, the structuring, the presentation.
Your value becomes directing the AI and then critically evaluating what it produces.
Right. It shifts the focus. And speaking of generating things, there was also a mention of an image generation tool.
Black Forest Labs Flux.1 context.
But this one had some pretty eye-catching claims attached.
Like photorealistic renders?
Yeah, photorealism, supposedly very fast inference times. And interestingly, handling sharp text within the images.
Now, that's notoriously tricky for AI image models. Getting text right.
It really is. And they were claiming it could be up to 8 times faster than rifles.
8 times faster? If that holds up, that's a big deal for creative workflows.
Huge. Imagine iterating on designs or concepts that much quicker. It could really change the speed and cost of generating high-quality visuals.
Okay, so let's wrap with just a couple of quick hits, sort of glimpses into future tech that popped up.
Sounds good. First one involved Tesla and their robotaxi ambitions.
Right. There was mention of a planned launch date in Austin, June 12th.
Yeah, but crucially, the sources noted that's an internal date. So, grain of salt, it could definitely shift.
Still signals intent, though.
Yeah.
And they've apparently been testing a fully driverless vehicle on public roads recently, too.
And Elon Musk apparently mentioned starting small, like maybe 10 cars at first.
10 cars isn't exactly flooding the city.
No, but the plan mentioned was scaling to potentially 1,000 within months if things go well. So it's that phased rollout approach. Test, learn, expand.
Makes sense for something as complex as autonomous driving in a city. Okay, and the other quick glimpse.
Robotics. Specifically Hugging Face, getting into open source humanoid robots.
Hugging Face, the AI community platform.
The very same. They've got 2 robots mentioned. Hope JR, which is full size and actually walks.
Wow.
And Reachy Mini, which is a smaller desktop robot arm setup designed more for testing AI apps, especially ones that involve talking and listening.
And they expect to ship these soon?
By the end of the year, apparently, which is interesting, right? It shows the push isn't just software AI. It's very much about embedding that AI into physical forms that can interact with the world.
The hardware side catching up, or at least trying to.
So yeah, quite a range we covered today. Started with AI potentially using Dr. Burnout, but raising those big privacy questions.
And jump to Apple, maybe shaking up OS names, and smarter budget tech like video doorbells.
Explored new AI tools like Perplexity Labs that are starting to automate complex knowledge work and faster image generation.
And finish with these little snapshots of robo-taxis maybe starting soon and more accessible humanoid robots on the horizon.
You look across all that, and the sheer pace of change is just undeniable, isn't it? Everything's being touched by this wave of AI and tech advancement.
It really is. Which leads to, I guess, the final thought for you, the listener. As all this tech, all this AI gets better at automating tasks, creating content, even maybe driving cars or walking around, what's left for us?
What are those uniquely human skills, the insights, the creativity, the empathy, the critical judgment? What becomes truly valuable, both for your job and just for understanding the world as it keeps changing so fast?
Something to definitely chew on.